Hey there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video we're going to talk about easy pieces and why you should continue playing them even as you advance into higher and higher levels of your abilities on the guitar. If you're an intermediate player, an advanced player, why you should still spend some time working on easy pieces. We'll talk all about it. So the tendency is, as we get higher and higher in our abilities, we keep playing harder and harder music, and that's as it should be, right? We're going to continue to play longer and bigger pieces, more complex, more challenging, faster, all these things, right? Bigger, better pieces, and that's always the goal. And a lot of, if you're working through a book series, or if you're in school or conservatory, then it just continues to we continue to churn through pieces, right? We continue to just get to the next level, get to the next level, get to the next level. Well, that's great, and we need to do that. However, there comes there are a lot of drawbacks to working in that way. One of which is, if you're only working on hard pieces, then you're always working at the edge of your ability of getting new notes, number one, actually playing all those notes, getting everything together. The work of getting those big pieces together, it's very complex, and so it takes a lot of work. Whereas easy pieces, you can get the notes very quickly. You could probably sight read it. So like this piece right here, this little exercise by Mertz, it's a very simple piece, right? Completely dismiss. If you're in your third year of conservatory, you're going to look at this and say, I don't even have time for this, right? However, what this gives you, whenever you work on an easy piece, what it gives you is the opportunity to get past the notes immediately and work on other things. And this is really where small pieces, that's where the gold of easy pieces lies, is that instead of working on notes and instead of working on your basic, just sounding the notes, getting your hands to move, well, then all of a sudden you can work on other things. You can work on memorization if that's a weakness for you, and then the music is less complex, and so it's easier to memorize. You can work on a small piece, and it's not a multi-month commitment. You can just have it, and it could just be for one day. It could be for a week, and then you don't have to play it ever again. It's just for a particular thing. What it allows you to do then is look more at your phrasing, at your tone quality, which you'll also be looking at in your big pieces as well. But it allows you to really isolate issues. So for this particular piece, then we have one issue is this repeated E. And then so how are we going to work on that repeated E? And so then there we have a balance issue. It needs to be quiet, right? Just looking through here, it needs to be quiet. So then that's one thing that we can work on, is really exaggerating, so that the high E is very quiet. Just as an example, in any kind of music that you're playing that's at a lower level than you, then there will be different issues depending on the piece. The other thing, and this is really where the rubber meets the road with these, is the phrasing on the moving lines as well. And so then what we have here is bom ba da da tom. So then the question is, how do you play this? If you just look at it and say this is an easy piece, it's not worth looking at, then what you're going to do is just bang it out, which is like singing like an elementary school child. It's all one volume. It's just immature. So then the question is, how do you handle lines like this? How do you phrase that? Do you get louder here and softer here? What is the way? And do you have a system for this, or is it completely arbitrary? Because if it's completely arbitrary, then you need to study and you need to figure out some other way of doing things, because that's not going to get you where you want to go. So how do you do it then? Well, this is where all of your study that you've been working on phrasing and everything else comes into play. You can actually then practice that. My system, and we talk a lot about this in the Woodshed program, you get quieter going up, louder going down. It's a little bit of a simplification, but in general, that's it. And so then that's the way that you would do that. Back off to the E, then crescendo down. And so then working on an easy piece, you can practice exaggerating that. If you have 200 measures and it's all 16th notes, then chances are you might not spend that much time on a simple little moving line like this, right? On a simple bass line. Then this allows you to actually take the time and look at things more closely, really put the microscope on it and challenge yourself and say, even though this is in a beginning book, how can I make this difficult? How can I play this to the absolute edge of my abilities? Not just speed, but how can I play it with absolute cleanliness to where there's not a single buzz or anything in it? How can I play it with exact phrasing, exactly like I want it? How can I put any kind of musical devices that I know? How am I going to handle tied notes and rests? Is there syncopations? How am I going to handle those? How am I going to do every little thing? Decide how you're going to do it, and then can you do that consistently with the piece? It all of a sudden makes even a very small, easy piece a challenging study. And so then something that you can sink your teeth into for a few days, and it will get you to those places. It gets you to that top 5% of working on the piece, because you can get the piece up to 95% just like that, just within a few minutes probably, depending on the piece. But then you can work at that top 5%. And that top 5% in your pieces, that is where the growth lies. On the big pieces as well, most people don't get to the top 5%. They get it up to 95% and then they go to the next piece. And so they're never working up at that top level of their abilities to really finesse every single note, every single sound in a very intentional way. Easy pieces allow you to get up and work in that top 5% more of the time, and that's really where it does. So get a list together of all of the different things that you might work on: your tone quality, your right hand movements, your primary patterns, and how your hands work on each one, the fingerings, every little thing about your technique, and then also your phrasing, which actually creates technique. Your demands for phrasing create your technique, your ability to move and your ability to do things. And then also your larger phrasing. How do you connect sections? How do you make the piece into one big moving line that it continues to go forward instead of stopping at the bar lines or at the section endings? So everything you can think of, every single musical device and phrasing trick you can think of, write it down, and then use small pieces to really hone those and really look for opportunities to do that, and look for opportunities to make simple pieces more challenging for yourself. And everything you play will rise because of that, even your larger piece, which you should continue to play. All right, hope this has been a fun watch for you, and I hope that you can enjoy working on some easier tunes, and I hope you can challenge yourself by stepping down a couple of blocks, go way back to the beginning, and have fun with it. All right, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon.